We begin with tonight's big number, 3.3 million. That is the number of new COVID infections in the second week of November, a 6% increase from the previous week. The Americas and Europe are seeing a fresh wave of cases, forcing a return to strict mobility curbs.
The Philippines so far is bucking that trend. Despite the sudden uptick in cases over the weekend with more than 2,000 infections, the health department says this still does not represent an uptrend. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Hall.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Now that the country is seeing a decline in COVID infections, the health department is warning against complacency to prevent a Europe-like surge in COVID-19 cases.
The DOH warns increased mobility combined with disregard for health protocols might result in the tripling of cases. Jen Calimon has the big story.
Europe is tightening mobility once again as a fresh wave of infections hits the region. In Germany, where cases top 50,000 daily, the traditional Christmas market has been suspended. The Netherlands has reimposed social distancing rules and has cut business hours. While France is mulling expanding its booster rollout, the health department attributes this to vaccine hesitancy and loosened restrictions.
The UK, however, does not plan to bring back COVID-19 restrictions at present as the country transitions to learning to live with the virus. In Netherlands, most restrictions, including mask mandates, were lifted in June of 2021.
But the spike is a global trend. WHO data shows weekly infections have risen 8% in the second week of November, with 3.3 million new cases. The Americas and Europe still report the highest cases and deaths. For the health department, the Philippines can buck the trend as long as health protocols are followed. Otherwise, cases may spike 3 times to 27,000 active cases by year's end. Compliance, on the other hand, might reduce active caseload to 9,000.
As nakikita po natin through the months from the start of the pandemic, nakita natin na yung behavior ng ating mga kababayan ay nag-i-improve na in terms of wearing of mask, frequent hand washing, tsaka yung physical distancing natin.
While cases have been dropping in the country, caseload had a sudden jolt on Sunday with 2,000 new infections. So is this the start of an uptrend?
The uptick in the cases yesterday is not a trend. It's just a day's worth of reporting. But prior to that, we had 5 days of below 2,000.
Last week nangyari rin ito, no? Tataas ng konti, tapos bababa, tataas, bababa. But towards the end of the week, nag-stabilize siya at nagkaroon tayo ng analysis at nakita natin na patuloy pa rin namang bumababa.
According to the Octa Research Group, a ramped-up vaccination drive coupled with compliance to health protocols might lead to just 500 daily cases by December. Reporting for News 5, Jen Calimon, We Are One News.
How else can the Philippines keep cases low, especially now that mobility has risen? That big question and more with Treatment Czar Health Undersecretary Leopoldo Vega. Dr. Vega, welcome to the big story, sir.
Good evening, Robbie, and good evening to Gretchen and all to the listeners out.
Yusek Vega, first of all, let's start with Europe and other countries closer to home, even Vietnam. A lot of people are taking note. Nako, major surge na naman sa Europe. We're looking at Vietnam. Akala natin ang Vietnam nakaalpas na dito. What is there to understand with the situations in other countries, and how can we confidently say that that is not necessarily the trend that we're following?
Robbie, if you try to look at the scenarios now in Europe and basically in Germany and some of the European countries, there has been a lesser adherence to the mask and the minimum public standard. I guess they all had the feeling that vaccination per se can actually prevent the COVID transmission. But it just shows that the minimum public health standard is a real good public health measure and a preventive aspect in terms of the transmission of the COVID-19. And I guess with the mobility and the non-adherence of these minimum public standards like wearing of the mask proved to be ineffective in terms of the transmission of the virus.
Okay, in the meantime po, we do note, yes, I mean, past 2 weeks, pababa na talaga yung mga numbers, but there was that uptick yesterday. What did that mean?
If you take a look at the trend, we are now really decreasing, and it has been plateauing to almost 2,000 to 1,000 plus. And in fact, for today, we now have new cases of 984. So in other words, you take a look at this, it's really there's really a decreasing trend, although there is a plateau and there is a small uptick. But I guess that if we continue with our vaccination as a preventive aspect for the transmission and prevention of this disease, together with our minimum public health standards, I think we will be able to pave the way for a better and healthy outcome for the community.
Okay, so ulitin lang po natin yan. Bottom line, with continued vaccination, continued adherence to minimum health protocols, particularly the wearing of masks, you're confident that the downward trend in the numbers will continue?
Yes, that's right, sir. If we can only vaccinate as much as we can and provide the booster dose to improve the community protection or even our herd immunity, I think we're in a better position if we stay that way and move towards really compliance of the minimum public health standards.
Okay, Yusek Vega, maraming salamat po. Undersecretary Leopoldo Vega of the Department of Health. As cases go down, the country is relaxing more of its restrictions. For one, the alert level system is now in full force across the country. The 5-tier level system was piloted in Metro Manila last September 16. It was then implemented in 4 phases across the Philippines. NCR is now under alert level 2 until November. The Interior Department said that only the capital is eligible for an alert level 1 downgrade. The Interagency Task Force has revised its guidelines for arriving fully vaxxed passengers from green list countries. Those fully vaccinated no longer need to undergo facility-based quarantine. They just need negative swab test results taken 72 hours before departure. They must undergo self-monitoring for 14 days. As for yellow list countries, facility-based quarantine has been cut to 4 to 5 days for the fully vaccinated. As long as swab results come out negative 3 days upon arrival, they will then undergo self-monitoring for 5 days. Overseas Filipinos set for deployment within 4 months are now part of the A1 priority group for booster shots. The IATF says this will allow OFWs to maintain their competitive advantage worldwide. The task force, however, has yet to announce when their inoculation will start.
These are the other big stories tonight. After healthcare workers receive theirs, senior citizens and those with select comorbidities can now get their booster jab. With Beijing in attendance, President Duterte tells an ASEAN summit that he abhors China's water cannon attack on Filipino supply boats last week. And global sensation BTS makes history. They are the first Asian act to win Artist of the Year at the American Music Awards. These big stories after the break.
the big story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The elderly and those with select comorbidities can finally get their booster jabs.
But pros and cons come with whichever brand they choose to get boosted with. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to this story.
A week after boosters were rolled out for medical frontliners, senior citizens and persons with comorbidities, or the A2 and A3 priority groups, finally get their turn. This means above 60 can now get a booster. On the other hand, not all A3 can get the boost. Now, eligible persons with comorbidities are persons living with HIV, those with immunodeficiency state, active cancer, malignancy, or transplant patients, and patients under immune responsive treatments. A2 and A3 can also choose what brand to get boosted with. Vaccine expert panel head Dr. Nino Gloriani, for example, chose Sinovac as her third dose, the same brand as her primary series. This is called homologous boosting.
I have contraindications to the heterologous vaccines like may iniinom akong gamot na pwede ako mag-blood clot.
Dr. Gloriani said heterologous or different brand boosting can have higher chances of adverse effects, but these are only temporary and mild to moderate. Dr. Gloriani advised that those who have diabetes, heart problems, or taking any medications that can cause blood clot to go with homologous or same brand boosting. Dr. Jaime Montoya of the DOST, on the other hand, chose heterologous boosting.
There is increasing evidence to show that it is beneficial also to use a different platform from the previous one that was given to you.
But his primary doses were Sinovac. But health experts stress that it's a case-to-case basis. With a steady increase of vaccination rates, the health department hopes this will further improve our numbers.
We are all hopeful that the deaths will continue to go down and the active cases also. Based on the faster projection, bababa ito by December 15.
Galvez said the rest of the A3 group can receive the boosters next week. The government plans to finish boosting 1.6 million medical frontliners by the end of November. Galvez said the economic frontliners and government employees fully vaccinated by July and December could receive the boosters by January in 2022. And sometime in the first quarter next year, boosters will be available for the general population. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, We Are One News.
Have you checked your phone's text inbox lately? Surely you've noticed a series of messages from unknown numbers offering jobs, loans, or kung ano-ano pa. Some speculate that such incidents have risen since we started signing contact tracing forms. But is that to blame? Mon Gualvez with this report.
Getting random text messages from random numbers has now been a constant part of Princess's Day. The messages often offer the bakery owner some rewarding jobs.
Wala naman akong ini-inquirean. So talagang nakaka-bother sa part ko.
She speculates that data from contact tracing forms might have been sold to companies.
Nakakatakot lang kasi asan yung privacy nung mga informations na nilalagay natin dun sa mga yon.
Andy, a marketing consultant, received 17 of these messages in just a single day.
There were two instances din na the same number na nag-spam sa akin tried to call me while I was working. Yun yung ayoko, kaya nainis na ako.
The National Privacy Commission believes these are incidents of smishing or soliciting information via text message.
Huwag na ho nating tatangkilikin itong mga messages na ito. Ito ay nagtataglay ng mga mensahe na maaaring upang lansiin lamang kayo na makakuha pa ng dagdag na informasyon sa inyo.
But the NPC believes putting the blame on contact tracing forms is a long shot.
Sadyang marami na pong maaaring panggalingan ng mga telepono at numero ng mga tao.
Cybersecurity enthusiast Art Samaniego also agrees, saying that it could be because of SMS blasting devices. He says this has been observed globally, like in India and Singapore.
Ipapasok mo lang yung unang number, halimbawa 0920 0000, at anong number na target mo? 0920-99999. Ang in-between those numbers, mapapadala niya ng message.
So what really happens when you click on those links? Art tried one, and it went straight to a WhatsApp conversation promising commission if money is shelled out.
Number mo yan, dapat private yan. Pero, pag di mo pinansin yan, walang mangyayari. At ang purpose nila, pag nagamit na to, nakawan talaga tayo ng pera.
Government agencies are already coordinating with telcos to help put a stop to this. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
For the big story in sports, in the NBA, LeBron James was ejected from the Los Angeles Lakers' 121-116 win over the Detroit Pistons for striking big man Isaiah Stewart in the face. As a free throw was being attempted at 9:18 of the third quarter, James swung his arm backward while boxing out for a rebound, hitting Stewart. In the process, the hit led to a stoppage in action, while Stewart, with blood streaming down his face, had to be held back multiple times by Detroit personnel.
Not going to give them that. So you lose a little defense maybe with Bradley, but they're looking to get something in the way of shooting, so Ellington enters.
We got Isaiah Stewart and LeBron. Isaiah wants some of him.
Time for another quick break. When we return. Speaking before the regional bloc and China, the president denounces Beijing's recent water attack on Filipino supply boats in Ayungin Shoal. Retirement might come in early for champion Pinoy vaulter EJ Obiena in the wake of payment allegations made by the Athletics Association. And it's a big night for BTS at the American Music Awards. The global sensation bagged 3 awards and made the crowd roar with their performances. More details on that after the break.
You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Speaking before the ASEAN summit with Beijing in attendance, the president denounced China's water attack on Philippine supply boats.
Days after that cannon attack, Senator Ping Lacson himself experienced China's aggression. Marian Enriquez has the story.
During a visit to Pagasa Island over the weekend, presidential aspirant Senator Ping Lacson witnessed firsthand China's activity in the West Philippine Sea from a radio challenge.
This is Chinese Navy. You are approaching our military alert zone. Leave immediately in order to avoid misjudgment.
To Chinese vessels lurking and a welcome message from China.
Parang hindi naman yata appropriate. Territory natin to. And hindi natin papayagan na maagaw na maski ano pang bansa.
About 45 Chinese vessels were reportedly around Pagasa Island, according to the National Task Force on West Philippine Sea. The locals now have difficulty fishing.
Kami na rin po yung umiiwas sa kanila. Talaga harang kanila. Kami kasi bangka lang yung gamit namin. Kaya kumbaga dyan sila, kami dito na lang din kami sa party dito.
Also in the trip, Davao del Norte 1st District Representative Pantaleon Alvarez said this might be the reason why fish prices have shot up.
Kaya tayo, nagmamahal yung galunggong dito kasi ini-import na natin eh. Sila na nag-i-export sa atin dito ng galunggong. Samantalang sa atin naman galing yun.
As a symbol of asserting the country's rights, Lacson and his camp raised 3 Philippine flags in Pagasa. This comes just days after 3 Chinese Coast Guard vessels blocked and water-cannoned 2 Filipino supply boats in Ayungin Shoal.
President Rodrigo Duterte denounced the Ayungin water cannon incident and raised this issue during the ASEAN-China Special Summit. He stressed that the dispute cannot be solved by force.
We abhor the recent event in the Ayungin Shoal and view with grave concern other similar development. This does not speak well of the relations between our nations and partnership.
The resupply boats have resumed their mission and is expected to reach BRP Sierra Madre by Tuesday morning. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said that a Chinese embassy has assured cooperation as long as the boats have no military escort. He added that a Navy plane will be at the vicinity. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Here are the other stories from around the globe. 5 people were killed, 40 were injured after an SUV sped through a Christmas parade in Wisconsin. Police say the person of interest is now in custody with a vehicle also recovered. The White House has also released a statement saying that they are closely monitoring the situation and will provide assistance to those who in need. It is not yet confirmed if the incident is an act of terrorism.
Another big story in sports. Pole vaulter EJ Obiena is now considering retirement from the sport, and that's if his current situation with the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association will not be resolved. The Patafa claimed that Obiena falsified his liquidation reports as they ordered Obiena to return 85,000 euros in financial assistance intended for the salary of his Ukrainian coach Vitaly Petrov. Obiena denied the allegations, demanding a public apology and that the investigation be withdrawn. The Olympian has also filed a countermeasure to the POC, the IOC, as well as the World Athletics body.
The only resolution to this now is a full and public withdrawal of investigation and a full public apology from the authorities involved in this. If this does not happen, I will consider my other options being an immediate retirement from the sport that I love in the Philippines and probably return school.
The Pataf, however, said that the internal probe was prompted by a letter signed by Petrov himself. The association added that the letter was backed by a signed affidavit by World Athletics Senior Vice President Sergei Bobka. Patafa claims that Obiena was not timely in settling his obligations.
The American Music Award goes to
Global sensation BTS makes history. They are the first Asian act to win Artist of the Year at the 2021 American Music Awards.
It's been a long and amazing ride since then, but nobody could have ever bet on the odds of us standing here and receiving this award. Except your army.
Their single Butter also copped Favorite Pop Song, while the group bagged Favorite Pop Duo or Group for the third straight year. BTS also caused quite an uproar when they performed My Universe with Coldplay. And their hit song, Butter. Philam Olivia Rodrigo, who won New Artist of the Year, also made her debut performance at the AMAs. Other winners include favorite male and female pop artists Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift, who also won Best Pop Album for Folklore. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
And the word of the year for 2021 is perseverance. That's according to Cambridge Dictionary.
Lookups for the word skyrocketed after the descent of NASA's Perseverance rover in February.
Cambridge says that it is normal to see spikes in searches for words that are related to current events.
Nichols added that just like the landing of rover on Mars, it also takes perseverance to face the challenges, as well as the disruption to our lives from COVID-19, climate change, political instability, and conflict. So last year, yung word of the year was quarantine sa Cambridge. A little bit more optimistic ngayon.
Oo nga. Actually, if it weren't for this news item reminding us about that Mars mission, I really thought that perseverance was totally related to, as you said, a more hopeful outlook.
Pagpupursige. Dito sa Pilipinas, yun siguro ang uso. Kaya naman, ilang araw na lang ba bago magpasko?
Ilan na lang nga ba? 30? Teka, palabasin natin dyan.
Malalaman natin. Okay.
Ilang years na lang?
Wala pa.
Wala pa. Mamaya.
That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News, for more in-depth analysis. Visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Eto na.
I have 33 days.
33 days to go before Christmas.
Ayun na.
Oo. Perseverance. Magpapasko na rin po, mga kapatid.
Panindigan nyo. Nangyayari rin yan.
Ating samahan, di mapigilan ang kasi